should give a big hand for errors, applause for mistakes. Without them we wouldn't be here. Let's hear it.
Hello, and welcome to Prospects of Kidkind. I'm Eliza.
And I'm Celia.
I'm Jasper.
I'm Ben Allen.
So let's give a little bios and some
All right.
fun facts about everyone.
Cool. So first I'll introduce our guests who we have today here with us. We have Jasper. Jasper is a 5th grader at Pierce School in Brookline. She loves acting. She's currently in 2 plays and plays soccer and enjoys anything related to science, especially about space and math. She looks forward to being an astrophysicist one day. And then we have Ben Allen here. He is an assistant professor of mathematics at Emmanuel College in Boston. His research uses mathematical models to understand theoretical questions in evolutionary biology. So thanks for being with us today, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna have a few questions, and then we'll take some calls from our phone line. And should we do some fun facts?
I think we should do some fun
Anyone
facts.
should do a fun fact. The theme is water bottles.
Yeah.
So my fun fact is I used to steal my friend John's water bottle until he labeled it not Eliza's with a label maker.
I last week stole Liza's water bottle.
She did.
I just got a new water bottle.
What kind of water bottle did you get?
I got a Camelback Podium Chill insulated.
Whoa.
Insulated.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've lost so many water bottles that I got a special water bottle printed that said Ben Allen will lose this water bottle. And then about a year after that, I lost that water bottle.
Celia's on the suspect list.
Suspiciously.
Yeah. Okay, those are wonderful facts. So, should we get started?
Great. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about space and math and gender tonight. So, our first question is, why is there something rather than nothing?
So when you think about space, there is no nothing. Like if this is a something, it's solid. But the air, it's something too. It's not nothing because it's oxygen and it's because it's not solid, that doesn't make it nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's the same in space. So like even in a black hole where it's like the center, that's just crushed up tiny nothing made into something. So that's something.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I think of when I hear that question is, I'm not an expert in physics, but my understanding is there's this thing called the Standard Model, which explains particle physics, but there's certain numbers in there, and no one really knows where those numbers come from. But they do know that if those numbers were a little bit different, there would be no matter. There would be no atoms and no electrons, protons, or anything. They would just, no particles. Things just wouldn't exist. And the question is, why are the numbers what they are so that things can exist and we have a universe and we have objects, atoms, everything else inside that universe? No one really seems to know. There's, I think, 2 theories. One of them is that there's some very complicated reason called supersymmetry that explains all of that. And the other is that it's kind of an accident and we only happen to be living in a universe that has stuff in it because we're here to talk about it. But there might be millions of other universes anywhere that the numbers were different and they have nothing. And there's no one there to tell their story.
Interesting. Okay, so that kind of takes us into the next question, sort of. So there is space, and I want to talk about how they've never sent kids to space. And why haven't we sent kids to space? Should we send kids to space? And, there's this whole concept now of the commercial space travel. NASA's cut all this funding, and now it's moving into this commercial space travel space. And Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Galactic, says he's going to take his kids into space. But should we send kids into space, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I think that it's great to have people who aren't necessarily perfectly trained and committed their life to something have other opinions on space. But also, space travel is dangerous no matter what. It's going to be dangerous, and there's always a risk of it not coming home safely. Like, you could die. And so adults, astronauts, they like have devoted their lives to this. This is what they want to do. They've signed up for it. And kids, if they would send kids into space, they probably would have signed up for it too. But they haven't really, like, they're kids, so they haven't lived long yet. They haven't. So it's a risk. But I think it would be interesting to have an opinion that doesn't come from an astronaut.
Would you go to space if you had the chance?
I might.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I might.
What do you think?
My impression is it'll probably happen at some point. So many people are experimenting with different ways to get into space and ways to do it cheaper and more safe. It might be a long time from now before we really have the technology to do it well and be really confident that people can go in safely. But my understanding is there's already been attempts at, as you said, commercial space flight where people can sign up and say, like, I would just like to go into space. And so if adults can do that, it seems not too unreasonable that kids or, maybe old enough kids would be able to do it at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Especially if the whole family's going. I mean, the kids aren't
Yeah.
at home.
Who's gonna babysit? We can't leave the kids at home.
Yeah. Also, like you're saying, like a family, that also makes a little bit more sense. Like if they were gonna slowly ease into just kids going to space, they would probably do families and then kids.
Yeah, that's true.
They probably would not have a mission that was only kids.
Probably.
But should we? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, one day.
It's like fun.
Yeah.
And then, the kids, they might take over and then, launch their own colony
Have their own
somewhere
planet.
else.
Yes.
A civilization of children.
In a long, long future.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That
could
would
happen.
be great. That maybe parents are just afraid that they know the kids would be better off. Okay. Cool. So, we're gonna ease into math now. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. So, do you think did we invent math or did we discover it?
Well, so we invented our number scale, our way of measuring math, but there's math in nature, like symmetry. There's things in nature that you can cut perfectly in half. That's math as well. Also, like in space, like back to space, we use different scales for measuring the temperatures. Like on Earth we use Celsius and Fahrenheit, but like for stars we use Kelvin, which is like it's a whole different spectrum. So that's kind of that's like sort of there, and then we invented our way of showing it. So we did both.
All right.
Yeah.
My answer is essentially the same as Jasper's. I feel like we are, humans look at the world around and we try to understand it. And one of the ways we try to understand it is we abstract it. We look for kind of the general principle behind the specific instances of it. So if we see a collection of objects and then another collection that kind of has the same amount in it, we say, oh, they're the same number. Even though they might be totally different objects, they're the same number. And then, everything else in math kind of builds from that concept of, looking at the world, seeing patterns in it and saying, how can we explain these patterns? So to some extent, it's invention that way, but we keep discovering new things in math. Somehow the numbers have their own structure that we still don't totally understand, and we're still, discovering new things about it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to think that we invented math in a weird way because humans have some weird OCD and we have to explain everything. And although like you look at it and you like, obviously like you see all the math and it makes sense, but did we like trick ourselves and convince ourselves that is, I don't know, like, and if we saw a different way, if there would be no math, but I don't know. I go back and forth.
Well, so math is, I mean, it's proven to be an incredibly useful tool for explaining all kinds of things in nature, right? And even math that was just invented just to be totally pure and just as an exercise and someone playing with numbers, 100 years later, someone's like, oh, wait, I need exactly this tool right now to explain what's happening in this atom or this black hole or, something else like that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So, should we, maybe just one more quick thing. Do you think time travel is possible?
Well,
and how would we do it? Do you have any theories on how it's
I'm actually
possible?
gonna play right now about time travel.
Okay.
I invented a time machine, but it's so. I mean, it's like a thing that's talked about a lot, but it just sometimes it doesn't really make sense that you could leave one time period and just go back, even if it was just a second. And sometimes it does make sense, but in a way, because it's complicated because if you think about it, it's almost impossible to even think about it. It's we're just changing around everything in the universe to go back and just stop and go back. So that doesn't quite make sense, but if somebody invents some kind of future amazing technology that could freeze the universe and have you go back, I mean, sure, but I feel like it isn't quite possible.
So my understanding is that, in terms just as a theoretical idea, time travel to the future, in principle, there's nothing stopping us from doing it. All you need to do is go very fast.
Right,
go
why
somewhere
don't we
very
just go into
fast.
space really fast when we come back?
That is almost possible because it actually is. It could be done if we had the technology to do that. It's proven that it could be done.
Right. Yeah. So you age 1 year and everyone else ages 50 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can build anything that goes that fast or if we can survive the trip, but we could do
Send
it.
a child.
Let's probably not that.
I agree. Going forwards, definitely possible in future years, but backwards, not so much.
I went to one talk where someone was saying so it's not clear from the, theoretical physics, from the math, whether it's possible in theory. A number of people have looked into it and it's kind of inconclusive, but one of them seemed to find that if you do it, then you can kind of go back in time, but it brings about the end of the universe.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh.
Which is pretty drastic.
Yeah.
Maybe not worth it.
Yeah.
But you get to go back in time. I mean, what could be better than that?
Yeah, but the clothing, all from the past. Okay.
I guess you don't get to see it. What happens in your play?
Well, it's a different kind of time travel actually because it's these kids actually who invent the time machine, but it malfunctions. They're trying to have one of them go back in time, but it malfunctions. And then later, one of their other friends hits it, and it makes it work. But instead of them going back, it brings Orville and Wilbur right to the future.
Oh, wow.
So it's a totally different concept of not you, but somebody else going.
Oh.
That's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time travel never seems to work the way people expect it
No.
to. Something always goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't
It's
be
not,
good. Or the universe ends.
Or the universe ends, yes.
Cool. Okay, so that's enough space talk. So we can transition into talking about gender because Jasper has some interesting views on gender, and we kind of want to hear about it. So
cool. So how has gender affected you? How do you think culture or your environment influences how you act?
Yeah. Well, so for me, I feel like gender first of all isn't something you're born with, and gender I believe is made up because there is no so men and women is gender, male and female is sex, and there's a difference because so gender is this kind of made up idea that you're different if you have a different sex. And that's not true. It's not true that you're mentally different, because, and it's even like set before you're born. It's like, oh, this person is going to be female, so they're gonna have this toys and this is how they're gonna act. And so it's kind of set up, and that's how gender plays such a big role. But in my life, like, I don't abide by genderized stereotypes. I'm a girl. I don't like dresses. I don't like pink, and those are all like genderized stereotypes that aren't true. So that's how it affects my life. But it shouldn't, because gender is kind of made up. It's this idea that you have to be different based on what your biological differences are, and I don't think that's true. That's the really only difference between other people. There's no difference between them mentally. So I feel like that is a important thing that should be emphasized more.
Yeah. Cool. Tough to
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think this is a very deep question, and I'm certainly not an expert on it. I'll take the question of how it's affected my life first. So first of all, I think as a male in society, I have a lot of privilege that isn't necessarily afforded to everyone. No one really thought it was strange that I was into math. I mean, maybe some of my peers did, but certainly it's not seen as a strange thing for a boy to be good at math or for a boy to have intellectual pursuits or whatever. It was, when I started being interested in those things, it was just kind of accepted as a matter of course that's, and sure, why can't a, male person go on to be a mathematician and all those things? There's no question about that. I do feel that, there are gender roles in society, and I think, males are assigned the, majority of the privilege, but there's also certain, expectations about how, males are supposed to behave in terms of, not being emotional and not, even just not wearing colorful clothing or not expressing in a certain way. And I think that can be damaging as well.
Yeah, which, like I'm saying, like it makes it, it proves it that it's made up, because everyone can show emotion and like be who they are. So it's kind of this set thing that is put in place even before you really have a sense of who you want to be. So I think that it's like a set thing that it shouldn't really be there.
I want to reference, there's a really famous debate between two professors at Harvard, so Dr. Lispelke and Dr. Steven Pinker, where they talk about the potential biological differences between the genders and whether or not there is some difference. And they both have these different opinions, and it's really interesting. But I think in some ways too, so what you're saying, like, there are these kind of assigned roles, and, girls play with these toys and boys play with these toys, and maybe those toys lead you to a certain way of thinking, and then it's just kind of like a trickle down theory. And I think that's interesting, and I wonder about that a lot. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like he's saying also, like, I really like math and science, and I'm female. Like, these are things that usually, like, even pastimes wouldn't be allowed for someone female to like. Also, like, I play tons of sports and things like that, so I don't like to abide by those things that are set there. Also, my parents never really set those things, which I'm very grateful for. But so I think it's good to like start going in that direction of having it not be set there, and you can choose who you want to be.
Yeah, and so I work in a science lab at MIT, and I'm one of two girls in a lab of like 20 people.
Yeah.
So it can be tough, but it's nice to see, like, you know, maybe things are changing. And for example, at Emmanuel College, where you're a professor, there are more female math professors, right? Or there were. Then there were male.
yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yes, yeah, 4 and
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. So.
And also,
was fun.
I think our majors are, I forget the exact numbers, but they're
Yeah.
usually at least 50-50, if
Yeah.
not majority
cool.
female.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of concludes our questions. Unless you guys want to ask each other a question.
I had one, I forgot it. So I'll think of it.
Maybe it'll come to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Nothing springs to mind right
Nothing
now.
springs to mind. So we're gonna open it up to our callers. So there's our phone number, and if you do call in, remember to turn like the TV down so that there's no echo, because that tends to be a problem. You can call it. We have a math professor and a budding astrophysicist. And
To be.
to be. Please call. So, you know, feel free to call. We'll try to figure out how it works. That's our phone number. Yeah.
Otherwise, we can keep talking until
Yeah.
the phone rings.
What's your
Phone rings.
favorite idea in astrophysics?
These broad questions, they're so hard to answer.
I know.
Let me think on that.
Okay.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I just thought of another question.
Yeah.
How was space camp? You went to space camp
Oh,
over the
space
summer.
camp was awesome.
So you went to
great.
NASA?
I went to
Which
it's
one?
at Huntsville, in Huntsville, Alabama, and it's is that
That's the
call?
phone. Okay, let's
Okay,
answer.
here we go. Our first call.
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. Where'd you get this smart little girl?
Craigslist.
She's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's going to be on top one day.
Yes.
And you know what? You're all Charlie's angels, all 3 of you.
Which 3? Just to clarify, which 3 are Charlie's
I think you were
angels?
talking about me.
Yeah, definitely 3. I'm Charlie.
To be Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, you have a blessed night.
Thank you.
All right, whose grandma was that? Was that your grandma?
That was awesome.
Yeah.
First call.
Yes.
Great success.
Back to space
First
camp.
call.
Right.
Space
Space
camp.
camp.
Yeah, space camp was awesome. So it's a week at Sleepaway Camp. At the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville,
Wow.
Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And we did simulations. And so we did one simulation that was a little. It's called the MAT, and it's when they strap you into this chair, and then there's like 2 metal circles, one big one, a small one around you, and they pull the lever and it spins like crazy.
Wow.
And it's supposed to simulate re-entry, which can sometimes have very, very, very uncontrollable spinning. So that was good.
Wow.
Another one was G-force, where that's supposed to simulate takeoff and re-entry, and it's like, oh my god, it's like you're being squeezed by 2 elevator doors.
Wow. Wow.
So that, and it's in this sort of pod, I guess, and it spins around so fast, and you're strapped onto this board, and it goes so fast, you literally, there's like, oh, call.
Hello.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
We were talking about time travel and also stars, and they say that when you see a star, the light from that star has traveled light years through space to reach your eyes. But I was wondering if there were any ideas on where that light comes from, or if we could use our knowledge of stars to come up with ideas for time travel.
Wow.
Wow, that's a
Deep
It's
question.
a deep question, yeah.
Jasper.
Okay. Well, yeah, like you said, it's like the sun's light takes 8 minutes to come to Earth. And so actually everything in space that you're seeing, depending on how far away it is, that's how long it takes you to see it. So there are things billions and billions of miles away that if you see now, if we got a picture now, it could be gone because the picture, like it was there, say it was 35 light years away, it was 35 billion years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a complicated thought.
That is.
But, yeah, do you want to go ahead?
Well, so I think physicists are trying, at least in theory, in their paper and pencil, to use that idea of light traveling from stars for space travel. So if you were able to travel almost as fast as the light from those stars, and go somewhere very far away, and then turn around and come back. And then the coming back part is important.
Yes.
You would find that you had aged much less than everyone else back on Earth, which Jasper already knows.
Much less.
So you'd be in the future.
Yeah, that's why they call it light years, because usually that doesn't make sense because it's like, why is it years? It's a measuring of space.
So are you an adult that went to space and came back and now you're a child? And that's why you know all these things?
So funny.
But, all right, if you could, would you go into the future, and how far into the future would you go?
Well, this is like the going into space question.
Suppose it was totally safe. At least the travel part. I don't know if the Earth would be safe, but the travel part would be safe.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very interesting experience, but maybe it might be. I think that it would be a little strange because I would come back and I'd be like this same age, and everyone else would be like.
Okay, I hate to cut you off. I'm really sorry, but we're out of time. There's no episode next week because it's Columbus Day, and we're gonna be hanging out with Christopher Columbus. But there's